actually want to climb down now.
It's good to see me, isn't it? Happy New Year, everybody. And happy birthday to... Fuck. Happy New Year and happy birthday to me, because my birthday is on New Year's Eve, which has never caused any sadness in my life ever about no one wanting to party with me. Never. No, I actually do kind of love it because it feels like everybody in the world is celebrating my birthday. And I think that's fun. But I thought this year, the funnest thing for me to do would be to dress up and talk on the internet for my birthday. So we're going to be ranking all of the movies of this year. But when this video comes out, it'll be last year. So last year, based on their costumes and kind of overall vibe of what I thought was good. But first, we're going to crack open a cold one and light a little candle for myself because I think that that's fun. And I'm Glenda, so who's going to tell me no?
Wow. This is just such an intimate moment between us, and I feel really special. Thank you all for coming. It's my party. It's really sweet. I'm really afraid my eyelashes are going to catch on fire. Cheers.
So, oh my God. This is why I never use a fucking mic. This is too difficult. The cord. I feel so restricted. I just want to throw my hands up in the air like I don't care, but I can't because I have to care. But it's fine. Okay, so let's get into how we're doing this. How are things going to be categorized? That's the most important thing. When it comes to how I'm rating these movies, let's be honest, I'm a human. So are things going to be biased? Absolutely. But I've tried to use the tiers in a way that kind of alleviates some of that bias, but since I'm a human, like it's going to happen no matter what. But I'm going to really try to look at a lot of the technical elements of it, but I'm also a big vibes person, and if the vibes are good and I think that it's iconic shit, I'm gonna put it on the list, and that's just how it is. Like there's a couple movies in here I already know people in the comments are gonna be like, oh, okay, yeah, so you have terrible taste. And I've just accepted that. I've resided myself in that, and that's okay. So let's talk about what the fucking tiers are. So to start out, I need my things. See, I can't hold this shit because I have stuff to do. My crown! My crown has been falling apart all day. If anyone was wondering, you were not. We have God tier. Now, this is reserved for a very special movie that I'm gonna just mention right off the bat because it can't be categorized in these other categories, and I can't look at it without a bias. So it's just, yeah. The next tier is icon status. I can't show you that because it gives them away. Next tier, icon status. Icon status are movies that I'm absolutely obsessed with and have watched multiple times and see myself watching just multiple times in the future. Like I know that I'm never going to get sick of these movies. They're just so fun. The biggest thing that all of these movies have in common is definitely campiness. I love a movie that's unapologetically just itself. It has something to say and it just does it really well. So icon status. After that, we have love. These are movies that I don't know. I just loved. I love them. They're good. Okay, and next we have 8. These movies, you know what? They were good. They 8. They might not be my favorite, but the eating the eating cannot be denied, and I will not deny them. Okay, and the final level is nibbled. These are not bad movies by any means. All of these movies these are my like top, okay, it was supposed to be top 10. It ended up being top 12 plus bonuses. So they all are good. These are just like they're not icon status. They're not God tier, you know, they're just not up there. Okay, just to reiterate, we have God tier. We have icon status. we have love, we have ate, and then finally we have nibbled. And these are the categories which we will be basing all of our thoughts and opinions on today. I would like to preface all of this. You know what? Come here. Come here. Let's talk. Where's my drink? Okay. Oh, my crown's so sideways. Why didn't anyone tell me? Okay, let's talk. So, these are all my opinions. And do I have the best opinions? I think so. But you might not think so. And that's okay. Let's get into it. Okay, so we're going to do it. We're going to do the order a little weird just because I need to get God tier out of the way just because I'm wearing that costume right now. So drum roll, it's Wicked. I mean, come on. Now, the reason I'm putting this in God tier is because honestly, it is a movie that I cannot quantify my spiritual connection to, right? I've loved Wicked since I was young. Some of my first Broadway experiences are watching Wicked. I came out of that a changed woman. Okay, I guess I was a kid. I came out of that a changed child. I was not the same after I saw Wicked. I was much more annoying. And then I also read the book at 12 years old. And any of you out there that have read the book know why that wasn't great. I remember my aunt got it for me for Christmas, and then we both were like, let's read it at the same time, because she had never read it either. And then she calls me a week later, and she was just like, hey bestie, just wondering, how far into that book have you gotten? And I was like, oh girl, it's too late. I know so many things about body parts that I did not want to know about. But it's okay. You know what? I turned out okay. I think it worked out well for me. So Wicked's costume designer was Paul Tazewell, and they absolutely nailed it. I was really nervous going into it because I remember seeing the dolls before the movie came out. Honestly, the dolls are the faces and the hair are fantastic, but I feel like the outfits on the dolls are not very good. And I was really nervous going into it that it wasn't going to capture the magic, but it literally blew me out of the water. Those costumes were absolutely incredible. I loved all of the influences that they had. I loved Glenda's being very bubble and floral inspired, and Elphaba's outfits being all very nature and mushroom inspired. The textures. The fucking textures that they created for the outfits were absolutely incredible. I wanted to eat everything up. It was just absolutely astounding. When Glenda first comes down in the bubble dress, I was immediately emotional. I was like, oh my God. And then Ariana started singing. And I was done for. I was like, yeah, okay. All right, they did it. I will not be a hater anymore. Yeah, I started crying. No One Mourns the Wicked. The first song, I started crying. It was too much. Absolutely incredible. Wow. The performances, the performances seriously blew me out of the water. Cynthia Erivo, I am yours. Whatever you want, I am at your service. Holy shit. The Wizard and I. And then one of the best renditions of Defying Gravity I've ever heard, except for the pauses. That is one of my critiques, is I feel like Defying Gravity was way too long. I get they were building up the emotions and stuff with the dramatic pauses, but I don't know if I particularly love that, but that's okay. I still love Cynthia Erivo, and I think that her rendition is one of my favorites I've ever heard. Even my mom agreed. And my mom is a big, especially Broadway musical to movie. She's a big hater. She's never liked an adaptation, but she loved this one. And she was like, yeah, Cynthia Erivo is the best I've ever heard. And I was like, right? I know. Literally incredible. When I was doing research on the movie and about the costumes and how they were produced, it was just incredible. But I found this article written by Amelia McGowan, who said that their initial connection to Wicked was strangely very material based. My 7th grade crush wore a Heathered grade merch sweatshirt with Wicked embroidered on the front almost every day at their California middle school. And guess what? Come here. Guess who had a Heather gray Wicked sweatshirt in middle school in California? Me, bitch. Me. Now, am I saying that was me? Yes, I am. It probably was. No, it probably wasn't, but I just thought that was really funny because I too had the same exact sweatshirt when I was in 7th grade. So I don't know. But I also looked like this in middle school. So maybe it wasn't me. Now that I'm thinking about it, okay, moving on. Let's move on. One of my favorite little Easter eggs that they threw in is Nessa Rose's heels. The silver, first of all, I really love the silver. I'm glad that they didn't do like the traditional red because I don't know, I feel like that's like overdone and we've seen it before. I really liked that they made it just this beautiful, classy, like diamond fucking pair of heels. That was awesome. And the little heel being a tornado, that's funny. That shit's so funny because when she gets hit by the house with the little tornado heel, that's going to be iconic. And I love that a lot. My only like big criticism though about the movie is the color grading. Where is the saturation? I'm sorry. The original Wizard of Oz is one of the most dynamic movies as far as color. Like it is absolutely incredible to look at. And why was this one so unsaturated? I hated it. It drove me nuts. It also made Ariana's hair that was like basically the same color as her wash her out even more. And it drove me absolutely bonkers. But other than that, such a great movie. Definitely one I'm going to revisit. I already have revisited a couple times. I can't lie. It's just so good. So in the God tier, we are in fact holding space for Wicked, which I also love that they used like the creation as like the poster. It just makes sense because this is a God tier fucking movie and we love it. Okay, now let's move on to our next category, which, okay, we're actually going to go back down to the bottom. We're going to go from nibbled and kind of work our way up. I just had to get Wicked out of the way because I just cannot be impartial. I know it wasn't perfect. No movie was perfect, but for me, it was pretty perfect. So I can't quantify that. It's impossible. So we're going to get into the movies that I can judge, and I will be judging, starting down here at Nibbled. And because I am trying to mostly base this off of costumes, there's some movies that I had to include just because the costume design was incredible. And I couldn't like not include them just because the story maybe wasn't everything I wanted. And there's definitely some movies that I wish I could have included, but the costumes just weren't quite there, so I didn't. This category is actually all sequel movies that, in my opinion, both of them really relied way too much on nostalgia, and they didn't really do their own thing as much as I would have liked them. It was just kind of disappointing. And I'm not a hater on sequels. There is a sequel movie in here that I actually fucking loved, and I thought it handled nostalgia in a much more digestible way that wasn't like, oh, look at this shiny thing, remember that? Like, that just pisses me off. Like, treat your audience like they have some type of critical thinking ability, please. With that being said, let's move into, I'm just going to put them both up and then kind of talk about them simultaneously because I don't have as much to say about them. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's start with Gladiator 2, I guess. I was actually really excited about this movie because I really liked the first Gladiator. I think it's really fucking awesome. A lot of cool action sequences, but it also is like super like gut-wrenching. The storyline is just like really, like there's a lot of emotion built into it. I think that, what's his name? The guy. The main dude. Oh, Russell Crowe. There we go. I think Russell Crowe was phenomenal in that role, and I honestly feel bad for Paul Mescal having to follow that up because those are massive shoes to fill. And I love Paul Mescal.
When I tell you this man is scrump-dilly-icious, he make me wanna, oh God.
Mescal, come here. I'm a Paul Mescal girly. Normal people? Shut the fuck up. I'm obsessed with that show. I've watched it multiple times and it gets me every time. It's fantastic. He has such an incredible ability to just showcase emotions, especially in that show. He is fantastic. I do think that he may have maybe lacked a little bit in the like action guy. I don't know. I think it was just incredible shoes to fill, and they didn't give him a different storyline, so it's hard not to compare when they had the same exact storyline. Are you fucking kidding me? That is my biggest complaint about the movie, is that the storylines were essentially the same. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean we're not going to do something different? Like, and even the characters were kind of similar. I don't know. Another thing that was kind of frustrating for me, but like I could get over if the movie was better, was the fact that this movie even existing the way that it does kind of negates the like sort of happy ending that we get from the first one. Obviously it's not happy. Spoiler alert, he dies, but we think it's with this like possibility for a better future, right? But then, another spoiler alert, in this movie, no, that did not happen. Things went immediately to shit right after. So that fucking blows. So that was kind of frustrating because like I feel like the first one just ended good. I don't think it needed a sequel. This is one of those movies that I'm like, yeah, like I guess you can, but like why did we need to? But the costuming was still absolutely incredible. It looked great. It's definitely one of those movies when it comes to historical stuff that doesn't try to be the most historically accurate. They definitely take some influences. So you kind of have to suspend your disbelief a little bit, but that's okay. I think that they did really well getting their point across, and it looked great. You know, it looked gritty. It looked grungy. It was just really cool. The animals though, I hated like, I don't know. I feel like all the animals looked really weird, like the CGI animals. But that's okay. Ooh, I did love when they filled the dome. I like the water. The water was cool. I liked that. Overall, I was a little disappointed in it, which was sad because I was actually really excited about this movie. Paul Mescal, Pedro Pascal. Are you kidding me? I was fucking psyched. Oh, Denzel though was fucking awesome in this role. Holy shit. That was his character was definitely the most intriguing. Like that was one I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm rooting for you. Like he was the villain, but I get it. I can see where he's coming from, and he was cool to watch, so it's okay. But I still love you, Paul Mescal. It's okay. I think you did good. And it's fine. It's not you. You're not the problem. It was the writing. Okay. Moving on. Please, God, let's move on. Okay. My other one that I was really excited about, like I was so hyped for this movie, was Beetlejuice. I love the original Beetlejuice. Look at me. I look like a bitch that loves the original Beetlejuice, and I love the Broadway show. So I was hyped. I dressed up. I was so ready to go see this movie. And it wasn't bad. It just was the same thing with like the nostalgia. They really relied on it in some scenes. And I was like, okay, yeah, like we saw the first movie, you know, like we can continue the story on without like relying on the success of the first movie. That's totally cool. The designer for the second one was not the same. It was Colleen Atwood. And I think that she did a fabulous job. With everyone. Lydia, I'm not the biggest fan of, but we'll get to that. But I really think that she did a great job capturing the spirit of the original, but also making it more modern, especially with Jenna Ortega's character. It was very like grungy and modern, but it didn't feel like terribly like Forever 21, Shein. It just was really well done. It felt very lived in, which was perfect because her character was definitely like grungy, but didn't want to be the same as her mom. So it made sense that she wasn't going to be a goth kid like her mom was, which I thought was cool. Now let's talk about Lydia. That's the main reason why this movie ranks so low for me. If it wasn't for the costumes, it definitely wouldn't even be on this list because I just hate what they did to Lydia's character. I've always loved her because she's such a strong-willed and like determined character. It's just so cool to see her interact with other characters because she just is so herself. She's unapologetically herself, and it's incredible to watch. And I feel like I just hate what they did to her character. Like she really felt like a shell of herself. And I understand it was like part of the development, but I don't know. I just think they could have gone a different, more exciting direction. And her costumes were kind of disappointing as well. The red dress, obviously love that, but that's really just nostalgia. Like, look, we did the dress again. Okay, even though I have a lot of problems with it, it was still a really fun movie to watch in theaters. I had a fun time, and I love seeing the underworld. I think that is definitely their strong point, is the underworld. It just looks so cool. I love getting to see the costumes of like how people died. Oh my gosh, that was it just looks cool. And I like that they rely on a lot of practical effects. It just makes things look even better. I did like the twist as well. I thought the twist was really fun, and you didn't see it coming because they kind of put Dolores there and you're like focused on Dolores. And so the other stuff that happens kind of like swoops in, which I think is cool. I don't know. At first I was like, okay, so like why is Dolores here? I don't mind because she looks incredible. Definitely my favorite like new character design from this movie. I just love I love the like black wedding gown with the stitching, the long dark hair. Oh my gosh. Chef's kiss. She just looks absolutely incredible. And at first I was like, okay, like why is she even here? Like it feels like they just wanted Monica Bellucci to be in it because, you know, why not? But when I thought about it, I was like, okay, it makes sense. Kind of like sleight of hand situation, which is fun. I like that. So overall, this one definitely I think it still has a really fun story, and I like that it was a different story. Kind of. It still feels very reminiscent of the Broadway show. The whole idea of going to the underworld is kind of already done in the Broadway musical, which I love. My camera died, but final thoughts. Visually, it was super engaging and fun and kind of had that whimsy of the original, but the story was a little bit uninspired. But overall, at least it was good to look at, and Monica Bellucci is hot.
Who is this irresistible creature?
Our next movie is Maxxxine. I tried to recreate her like dress with the little X in the back, but I don't think this dress actually does as much of an X as I thought it was going to. But we tried. You know what? The thought was there, and that's okay. We can't be perfect all the time, just most of the time. Just like this movie. Yeah, I have a lot of mixed feelings about this movie. I was really excited about it, and I think that was part of the problem is I had like such high expectations for it. Because one, I love like 80s fashion. I think it's fun. And clearly everyone else did because we got so many fucking 80s fashion movies this year. Like it was a lot. This one is definitely my least favorite of the 80s fashion movies on this list. Like it was fun. It had like a lot of like fun looks, but I just feel like sometimes it was a little bit kitschy with it. Like it didn't always feel as grounded as some of the other movies because some of the other movies just did such a phenomenal job. But it was still fun. That's okay. And as someone that loves Hollywood shit, I was very much a sucker for this movie just because, you know, it was fun, like getting to see like the grimy Hollywood Boulevard. It was fun, you know. I'll give them that. I feel like it wasn't as much of a slasher as it kind of advertised in the commercials. Like I really was expecting that action, but we didn't get a whole lot of it. Some of the scenes that we did get, like the gore was great. I will absolutely give them their flowers when it comes to that. There were some scenes that were they looked so nasty and good. I loved the scene where like the blood splatters on the VHSs. That's funny. Like that shit's really funny. The scene in the alley, I know a lot of people were like, oh God, that's too much. No. I thought that was great. And that's why I love Maxxxine as a character, because she can do shit like that. It just makes sense. But then after that, it really went downhill as far as like what she got to do. She basically became like a damsel in distress. Like, I'm sorry, what? That's not Maxxxine. Her whole thing is that she can take care of herself, and she might be a little crazy. Like she just smashed a man's balls and then also like beat someone up with keys. And then you're going to tell me the end scene, like she's just going to have to wait for some people to come save her. She does her own thing in the end, right? Like she eventually saves herself. But like before that, there was just a lot of her not getting a lot to do and having to rely on other people, which I hated because Mia Goth is so talented. I feel like they should have given her more of, I feel like what would have been cooler is where she finds out about her father being like this cult leader, and it's just her hunting down every single one of those members and brutally murdering them. I feel like that would have been a lot more interesting story and also juxtapose her to Pearl a lot better. I don't know. I thought that could have been more exciting. But the costumes were great. I thought that they had a lot of fun with it. They definitely paid some homage to the 80s. At times, it was a bit much. Things didn't feel as lived in as some other movies that are going to be on this list. But
like overall, it was still fun. It was a good film to watch in theaters just because like it has like really cool visuals and stuff. Ty West is really good at like creating a vibe, and this movie definitely had a cool vibe to it. But I just was expecting more, like coming off of Pearl, the expectations are super high for like a very intriguing story, which it was still interesting. But overall, the costumes were really good. You can tell that they did their research and I liked it. Okay, the next one is Dune. Ooh, wow. I feel like I'm going to get shit on by how low on this list it is, but it's not low. It's in the 8 category. Like none of these are bad. These are all good as far as the costumes go, okay? See, and I actually think that Maxxxine should be lower. Oh, I don't know. Put that lower. I don't know. Dune, I don't. The costumes are fucking incredible. Oh my gosh. So the costume designer for Dune was Jacqueline West, and she absolutely killed it. I love, she describes the looks as being medieval, as in medieval, but with a modern bend to it, which I think is perfect. Dennis always described Arrakis as the beginning of a new world, a world starting over. That's why I went back to a lot of medieval references to give the feeling of old age, but also modern. And I think that is achieved just extremely well. The movie just, it's otherworldly. Like I feel like I don't have a lot to say about it because like it's so larger than life. The only reason it's not higher for me is because some of these I see myself like rewatching, and I know that I'm gonna like think about a lot and they're going to become iconic in my mind, which Dune definitely is. To me, I just don't connect to it as much as some of the other films. But I can appreciate how fucking incredible it is. The world building is insane. The little, like, I could make an entire, like, hour-long video talking about all the little references within Dune. It's just so fucking awesome. Even just the progression of the characters, like Chani, you can see her becoming like softer and like more open of a person as she kind of falls in love with Paul. And you can see that like through her fabrics, like being like flowy. And then like her blue scarf is supposed to represent like her like love with Paul too, which I think is really cute and sweet. The score is like otherworldly. Holy shit, that is just beautiful. Wow. Something I love about Dune is that the stakes are so high. The world is so massive. Like we have this huge like shit going on, but it's still grounded because of the characters, right? Like we're seeing it through the lens of these characters. So we're like understanding the feelings that are happening despite not totally grasping like the severity and like the giantness of everything going on, because they just really focus on giving it a heart, which I think a lot of like big blockbuster movies can forget to do. They don't build that heart as much, but that's something that Dune does particularly well, is build that out. And just, it's really incredible. That is why this movie absolutely ate. Incredible. Something I want to try to do again is read the book. I think I might try to listen to like the audio version of it though, because I tried to read like the book, but it was a lot. It has so many terms and stuff to learn that it feels like you're like reading a dictionary almost. And I got very overwhelmed. So I'm hoping that this year I can like listen to the audio version and like really get to understand this world more. And then I think that it has the potential to be like super high in like my favorites once I know more about the world, because there's just so much to it. Like that's why I feel like it isn't higher up for me, is because like I only have a surface level understanding of it. And so I feel like I can't connect to it as much as I potentially can after I read the book. So I'm really going to give it my best. Gosh, just so many words. God damn. I know it's a book, but that's a lot of words. I guess we're just stuck here. I have a cat on my lap, so there's nothing I can do. Okay, actually, I do need to get up, though. Share your thoughts. Oh. Welcome back to the 80s. There are so many 80s films in this journey. I just need to warn you. Also, I just got my birthday Starbucks drink. Which is the only Starbucks drink I ever get a year. I don't support them. any other time, but if it's free, I feel like I'm winning in that situation. So I had to like re-download the app, which I was having issues re-downloading the app because I had to like re-enter my card information even though it's a free app. It was really pissing me off. I was like,
it's my birthday. How dare you treat me like this on my birthday?
Anyways, yeah, let's move on. So we're talking about two movies because I feel like these movies were often compared to one another, which kind of makes sense because, you know, like Lesbians and Murder, but they are totally different movies. So it also doesn't really make sense. On one hand, you have an absurdist stoner comedy. And then on the other hand, you have like a thriller mystery kind of thing. I don't know. I feel like they're pretty different at the end of the day. One's set in the 80s, which is why I'm dressed 80s. Actually, I feel like I should take this off because it looks more accurate. I just was kind of cold, but this is the fit, you know. I'm trying to really channel Kristen Stewart. I hope I'm doing it. I don't think I am though. Literally me when I popped up in the movie theaters. I was like, oh my God, that was Swan. Okay, so I'm going to be comparing them a little bit, but also not really because I feel like they are two very standalone films. And I think that one received a lot better critical acclaim than the other, and that's why they were often compared. So let's go ahead and start with the final movie in the 8 category, which might be a controversial opinion is what I'm realizing. I had no idea that this movie got such bad reviews. Like, literally this week when I was opening the reviews, I was like, what? People hated this film. I had no idea because when I first saw it, I was so excited. I was like, I love this. This is some weird, kooky shit, and I think it's fantastic. Because like I said earlier, it's an absurdist stoner film. Like, it is not meant to be, like, some deep intellectual thing. Like, it really is just wild and crazy shit. Also, spoiler alert, I'm gonna have to really get into some spoilers in this movie in order to talk about it, because it is such a short film. I think it's like 90 minutes, so a lot happens in a little bit of time, which honestly was a big thing that critics said. They're like, nothing really happens. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? There's a lot. I feel like there's a lot that happens. I feel like there was enough that happens, and I think it's fun. I think the worst thing I saw was someone compared it to Madam Web, and I took that personally. I was like, excuse me? If you hate lesbians, just say that. If you don't want lesbians to have fun, just say that, you know? Like, let's stop trying to hide behind like being a critic. You suck. Sorry. I feel like I'm taking this one way too personally. So I'm going to really have to step back and look at it from an objective perspective. Just kidding. We're not doing that because I really liked it. All of my notes for this movie also are perfect because none of them make sense, which is exactly the vibe of the movie most of the time. I just wrote dildo representation. I don't know what I meant by that. Not all dildos are the same, I guess, is something really important to me when I was writing this. I mean, fair though, the fact that they were carrying around a briefcase with dildos. Like, it's so weird, but that's like the whole point. It's not supposed to be that serious. It's supposed to be like, it's not supposed to be a big blockbuster. It's supposed to be a B movie. That was a big inspiration for this film, was B movies and exploitation films. Like, it's just weird. It's wacky. It has the weirdest fucking transitions, which also, another spoiler, Miley Cyrus? Hippie Miley Cyrus stealing dongs? What? I loved it, but it was so weird. And every time I make people watch this movie, I'm just like, you just have to just give it time. It is good. I promise. You just have to give it a chance. Okay. I promise it's good. And yeah, let's talk about what we came here to talk about, which is the costumes. They were fun. I feel like it's not like over the top anything because it is just set in the 90s and it's just like a road trip kind of situation. But I think that they dressed their individual characters really well for their personalities. Jamie, very, hey mamas, very, I want to be a cowboy, baby. I want to be a cowboy.
I want to be a cowboy, baby.
Margaret Qualley was so good in this role. I was in love 100%. Except I did see some criticisms about her accent. And when I went back and watched it, I have to agree. I was definitely like blinded by the like freaking the persona that I did not even think about the accent. And I have to be honest, it wasn't perfect it wasn't perfect all the time, but like honestly, like kind of in a camp way.
It's your wall dildo. Oh, Marion, who's your loquacious friend? I just love that chatty little girl. Isn't she something?
I don't know. See, I have a bad habit of writing off bad things in movies as being camp, so that's on me. And then Marion, she starts off super uptight and like literally like buttoned up to the top with like her little scarf. And then you kind of watch her unwind as she like starts to open up a little bit, gets closer to Jamie, starts to have a little bit more fun. So you kind of see her loosen up and wear some more fun outfits. And then the villains, they're very cartoon villains, and I like that about them. I think that they're just like goofy and they're not supposed to be like too serious. Like that's the whole point, is like they're kind of bad at their job, and that's fun. This movie is a fever dream, and if you're not hot enough to get it, that's okay. Get out the fucking kitchen then. Let me enjoy this movie and stop dogging on it. Thank you very much. At the end of the day, I support lesbians' rights and lesbians' wrongs, and to me, this was a right. I did give this movie 4.5 stars. I don't care. I know it has problems, but I enjoyed it. It's 90 minutes. Come on. Like it's just a fun little goofy ride. And the costumes are fun. And maybe I'm blinded by hotness. Okay, sue me. Moving on to Love Lies Bleeding. Now, this movie is in the love category. That's what this next category is. And I love it. It's so good. Out of all of, oh man, that's hard. There's a lot of 80s movies in this board, but this one is definitely like one of my favorites. I love so much about the costumes in this movie though is they're actually very grounded in the 80s. It's not like the over-the-top absurdistness that's in most 80s movies, which isn't a movie that's in this category actually. I love the movie in this category, but this movie is very much real. I spent a lot of time around like 80s fashion growing up, not because I grew up in the 80s, obviously. I'm only 26. Gosh, how old do you think I am? Because my mom and my aunt, they grew up in the 80s and they still had a lot of that fashion still. So I got to see more of like what everyday people were wearing, and this is it. And the costume designer for this movie, Olga Mill, just did a fantastic job making it feel real. When starting costuming for this movie, they had the question of, can we make an 80s gym film without leg warmers? And they did that. And that's like iconic because that's always what you think about when you think of the gym. A quote from her interview with The Art of Costume is, there is nothing Dynasty or Jane Fonda about it. Everything is a little sun-drenched and dusty, which is exactly the perfect way to describe it. They use a lot more muted tones and they make everything look worn. It makes sense because the characters don't have a lot of possessions. One of them is literally living out of a duffel bag, so you can't fit a whole lot into that. So they had to really make the clothes be re-wearable, which is something they did too. They had her rewear different items with different outfits, and it just felt like real people, which I really enjoyed. And then you also had Kristen Stewart's character just like re-wearing shirts. Like obviously like she has like a shirt that she doesn't really like and she doesn't give a fuck and she's just re-wearing it. And I liked that a lot. They also really looked at bodybuilding and gym magazines from the time and like really figured out exactly what people were wearing. They also used a lot of vintage pieces that they sourced in, I think it was New Mexico is where it was filmed, but they tried to source like local pieces. So it was not only time accurate, but also geologically accurate, like where they were at. And something I found out too by reading that article was that they had a textile artist. I've never heard of someone calling themselves a textile artist in regards to wearing and tearing clothing for films, but I really liked that. I think that absolutely makes sense because you have to super duper study textiles to understand how to wear them properly. And he just did a fabulous job making everything look lived in. And especially as the story progressed, because you started introducing more dirt and blood. And those are things that are really hard to make look realistic, especially over like a long period of time. Like you really have to study how blood interacts with different fabrics. And I think that he did a really good job doing that. And also the story of this movie is just, it's so good. I don't want to spoil this one because this one is like, this one genuinely like, it puts you like, you're on a journey and you are like strapped in, ready. Like it is just continuous. Like every corner, something's happening. And then just the romance between these two is just, I love to see it. And the ending, okay, I'm going to spoil one thing. The giant woman. What? I love that. I was not expecting it. I did not let myself get any spoilers, but then just the giant woman, just getting carried by a giant woman. That's my dream. So, Kristen Stewart, you lucky dog. Yeah, this movie was great. The costuming is definitely one of my favorites of the year. Just absolutely incredible. Just the subtlety of it was what made it so good. Obviously, I love an over-the-top film, but this is what costume design is all about. It's about creating a real world and honoring the past, and they just did it. Absolutely killed it. Olga?
I love you.
Till the windows black, I'll be right back. No, I never go home, don't sleep, don't eat, just do it on repeat, keep 365 pipe girl. I am the great Dementus. Bring me your pain and your burden.
But also look at my little teddy bear backpack. What the fuck? Next, we're talking about one of my most anticipated movies of the year. Talking about Mad Max Furiosa. I was so excited for this movie, like genuinely so much excitement. I remember watching Fury Road when I was in middle school, and it really did change my life. Okay, I don't think I talked to anybody for weeks after I saw that movie because I was just in my own head, living in that world, like recreating the whole entire world in my head. Like I was in the wasteland and I was just in my room for hours, just imagining these scenarios. And like my mom would come and she's like, hey, I'd be like terrified. I'm like, what the fuck? Why am I in the bedroom of a giant? I have things to do. I have people looking up to me. My soldiers need me. And this movie did not disappoint. I know it didn't do as well in the box office as like anticipated, and I know that there was some harsh critiques on it, but really I think it was fantastic. And I think that people just like, I don't know. I think people were too hard on it. I don't know. I don't even think it had a lot to be disappointed in. I mean, the costumes were fucking awesome. I love Fury Road, but I think that this even did the costumes better. Like it was so much fun, which right now I'm actually wearing. I am wearing Dementus's giant like parachute cape thing. I just loved that. I loved the idea of him just being like, oh, this is kind of cunty. I'm going to keep it. And then he kept it. And then it kind of transitions through him. Like it turns like red after the little situation. And he keeps on wearing it and it just like transitions with him. I just think that that's such a cool concept. So earlier I'd mentioned that there was sequels that I put higher in this list. And this is I think the best example of a sequel that like does its own thing, but then still respects like the original, which honestly Miller is great at doing that. Like he is good at expanding his universe without like making everything reliant on the previous iterations of it. So like there's definitely callbacks to the original because this one happens directly before Fury Road. Like actually the end scene is like right when Fury Road starts. So obviously they had to do a lot of setup for that, but it wasn't in an annoying way where they were really just relying on nostalgia. It was its own thing. It had its own thing to say, and that was absolutely fantastic. So let's talk about the characters and kind of what they wear. Anya was Furiosa and she nailed it. I just love her. I think that she is like such a talented actress and there's so many things that she's in that are like in my like top favorite things. So I think that just says something. I also found out while watching videos about this movie that apparently she can bleed on command. I'm sorry, you can bleed on command? She can like get like a nosebleed. What the fuck? That's crazy. Go off though. She also doesn't have a driver's license, apparently, even though she does so much driving in this. Like, who's monitoring the roads? Come on now. We're letting people without driver's license drive these big ass tankers? That's crazy. Her look in this though really transitions. So she starts out a child, obviously, and I like that. Her look is very simple, very flowy, not very utilitarian at all. She's living in a place of splendor still. Like they still have water, they still have fruit, and she doesn't know the pain and suffering of the wasteland yet. But then as she goes throughout her journey, you see her hardening, and you can see that within her look as well, until the very end when she becomes the Furiosa we already know. She's hardened, she's got her classic look, but in this one, her arm, I think, is cooler. I haven't seen Fury Road in a hot second, but I don't think it had the little engine thing. In this, she has like a whole engine that powers her arm, which that's incredible. Now let's talk about my other favorite character from this, Dementis. Thor, what are you doing here? And why are you so fabulous? Chris Hemsworth absolutely kicked this role out of the park. If I knew he could act like this, oh my gosh. What roles are we giving this man? Come on now. He's got range. He was so funny. He was so scary. Like, he just ate this role up. He gave it his all, and I thank him so much for it. His look for this was supposed to be a kind of a mix of Gladiator and like a Napoleonic soldier outfit, which I think they accomplished really well. Oh, I forgot to mention the costume designer. I'm sorry. For this one, it was Jenny Beavan. Absolutely ate. Icon alert. So for him, there's a lot of like strappy stuff. He's got his little parachute cape that he wears throughout, and then he's got his little like soldiery vest, which I really loved as well. He's kind of scary, but then also not really, and that's kind of what I love about his character is like, yes, he's like this conqueror, but he really is quite clumsy with it, as is evident once he like gets control of the one area, and then he doesn't like really know what the fuck he's doing. I like that you can have multiple sides to a villain. I just really love these two characters, and I liked watching their journeys kind of come to a head in the final confrontation. They both have these like extreme motivations for why they do what they do. Furiosa's is vengeance, and that is kind of questioned too in the end by Dementis saying this final act will only result in you becoming me, right? And that's like, as the audience, we're kind of taken back, right? Because the whole time you're also rooting for Furiosa. She's gone through so much. He put her through so much, and you're like, yes, bitch, get your fucking revenge. Kill him, kill him, kill him. And then that kind of like humanizes him for just a second. You're like, oh my God, wait, why am I rooting for this? And it's the perfect example of like what Miller is really good at, creating this world of like incredible violence, pain, and agony, but then still grounding everything with the simple question of what does any act of violence truly solve? Does it solve anything? Because in his universe, actions really do have consequences. And over again, we see our main protagonist almost achieving like peace and like what they're looking for, but then there's always going to be somebody that's going to be too greedy or have this search for vengeance that's going to kind of make things blow up in everyone's faces. And I just really like that. I just really appreciate Miller's thoughtfulness when it comes to crafting such a cool story. And I also think that Jenny Beavan did just a wonderful job costuming this movie by making callbacks to the originals, but still like pushing the envelope even more, because that's something that I've noticed with the films. Like you have the original Mad Maxes, and they were definitely closer to like clothing of the time, like when they were made, with just like an apocalyptic feel. But as they move on, they get way more apocalyptic and like otherworldly. And I think that this iteration is very much that, like it full on dives into like apocalyptic, like very camp and just over the top, and really, really sick costumes. I love them. Come on, Warner Brothers. Don't fuck it up like you did Birds of Prey. I won't forgive you this time. I don't forgive you for last time. If you do this, I'm coming for you. I will be seeking vengeance. All in all, this movie was really cool. I liked it. I also heard that apparently for one of the tanker stunts, I think it was like the big tanker battle in the middle, it took like 78 days. 78 days to film that? Couldn't be me. I don't have that dedication, but I love that for them. Fantastic. If you haven't watched this movie, go watch it, please. We need to convince them to make another one, because if we don't convince them to make another one, I'm going to lose my mind, and that's going to be all of your problems. Okay, yeah, it's good, okay? I like it. Fuck. And now, dear Aussians, we have made it to the creme de la creme of all of the movies of this year. These are going to be my top movies. Besides Wicked, that doesn't count. That one transcends space and time, so it's not actually real as far as this list goes. But these are going to be my 4 top movies. They're incredible. I'm so excited to talk about them. And that is why this tier is icon status, because that's what they are. Icons. These are movies that I absolutely see myself rewatching throughout the years. Just chef's kiss, absolutely incredible. If you couldn't tell by the look already, Lisa Frankenstein, and the look is based off the one scene where her little undead boyfriend's got a nice tan going on and she's just like in the mirror with the little crown. Just having the best time. I'm absolutely obsessed with it. Oh, also the color grading of anything that takes place in the tanning bed area is just incredible. This movie, not to be dramatic, kind of changed my life when I first saw it. I was so stoked, and I've been excited about this one. This is one that I saw the commercial for like months in advance, and me and my sister looked at each other in the theater. We were like, we're going to watch that immediately. Because I already love Diablo Cody. Juno, Jennifer's Body, those are two of my favorite movies as well. And I just knew, I was like, the woman you are going to deliver for me. And she did, because what the fuck? This was so incredible. Like, what? And it was also Zelda Williams' debut. Now that is a directorial debut if I've ever seen one. Absolutely iconic. But let's get into what we're really here for, which is the clothes, which were absolutely iconic, so fun. Like, I cannot get over the clothes. The costume designer for this movie was Meagan, McLaughlin, Luster, and they just did a fabulous job really bringing to life the fun, colorful 80s, but also in a very digestible and believable way still. I feel like this year was really good for 80s movies. They weren't like over the top and like, whoa, 80s, because like things like Stranger Things are good and I enjoy, but I feel like sometimes they're a bit on the nose with the 80s stuff, which this movie kind of was too, but because of its overall campiness, it made sense for the story. When coming up with the costumes, they wanted it to be a warped John Waters Nightmare on Elm Street version of the 80s, and I really think that they nailed it. Like, that is the perfect description of the costumes in this movie, and it's just so fun. Also, I just got dripped on. This is the leaky fitting room, but it's okay. The funnest thing about the costuming in this movie is you just can feel the care and thoughtfulness that went into it. And it makes sense because Meagan even used some pieces out of their own wardrobe because they were just like, okay, 80s, yes. Like, this is me, I'm ready. And you could just tell. It also kind of, I'm obsessed with the fact that Lisa looks so much like Chappell Roan.
Hello there.
Like, that was kind of iconic. Lisa and Chappell's come-ups were around the same time, so you just had these two absolute weirdo icons filling up the feeds, and I thought it was great. Especially because I low-key look like both of them. Just because of the hair, like, that's it. Which, I would just like to put it out there. I did the hair first, so, you know. Just saying. That's definitely my type 4 personality showing. And now let's specifically talk about our characters and the costume journeys that they go on. First, let's start with our Victorian man, Cole Sprouse. I can't remember his actual name. Frankinstein, so our little zombie boy. So he starts out the film covered in goo, covered in mud, because he just came out of the ground. Fair enough. I can't judge you for that, but like, glad you took a shower immediately, because gross. But I found out when I was researching the costumes, apparently that fit that he's wearing underneath all the goo is a traditional Victorian burial outfit. And the more I looked at it, I was like, oh my gosh, it is. That's so fucking sick. It's just such a fun little touch. And I love that like she actually like thought about that and paid attention to it. And another thing I love about his character as he goes on through the story, he constantly makes his like 80s like modern attire more Victorian inspired. Like, he gets a little scarf and ties it up to make him look prim and proper. He wears the blazer over the Violent Femmes shirt. It's just so sick, and I love little touches like that where you can feel a personality coming out through the costumes. I think that's like the biggest job of a costume designer, is to not make things look too corporate, right? Like, they have to add those personal touches that the characters would add, and I think that she did a phenomenal job doing that. And moving on to Lisa, it's really cool that you can really see her evolution through style. You can see her gaining confidence, starting out with her little pirate skeezer dress, which was a big inspiration for me today. I love a little pirate skeezer dress moment. She starts out very traditional 80s, you know, she's got like the acid wash jeans, little shorts, button down shirt, that type of thing. But then she really starts to get more like Cyndi Lauper, like very fun with it. She's like making her hair extra big too, which is, it's just so fun. I also am obsessed with the whole entire dream sequence. That was absolutely incredible. The like giant dress with the big hair and having GW Pops like as like a beer company logo on it was so cool, because she mentioned that that was her favorite director. Like that was just such a cool touch, and having the trip to a moon be the backdrop of all of that, having her mom kind of appear in it, and it also just shows like her vibe, very dark, very romantic, and it was just beautiful. My favorite scene of the whole movie. I just had my mouth like on the floor when I watched that for the first time. I was like, shut the fuck up. I love when a movie just has fun. Can't we just have fun at the movies? Like, I just want to have fun. So thank you for that. Absolutely. I also, random touch, loved the pink house. That was dope as fuck. Very cool, very 80s. Janet may have been the worst, but she also kind of served cunt at the same time. Like her little figurines, her little outfits, her little nurse outfit. Are you kidding me? Her pink house. Like she was kind of cunty, but also like she sucked. So I get it. It makes sense. The hate is valid, actually. I loved the little clothing montage, but it was like zombie clothing montage when he was just like putting on those little things. Oh, it was just so cute. I love a clothing montage. I will never get sick of it. That is a trope that I love and will always love. I wish I was with you. And then he's like, you said you wished you were with me. And she's like, ooh, no. When I said that, I meant I wished I was dead. That shit was funny. But like if someone said that to me, I don't think I would ever recover. So good on you, Victorian man, for getting over that, because I would not have. Yeah, that movie was absolutely incredible and I loved it so much. It's definitely one I'm going to be rewatching. I've already watched it like 4 times this year, and I will be watching it again.
Thanks that I get for putting you bitches on. Is it my fault that...
Hey, Count Orlok, County, can I call you that? As one asthma haver to another, I think it's time for a refill. I really do. If I have to listen to your god-awful breathing for another minute, I will pull my hair out. It's a lot. It's a lot, friend, okay? Please go to your pharmacy. Just refill that prescription, okay? And if you don't have a prescription, steal one. You're literally a vampire. Like, go suck someone's blood that has asthma and then take their inhaler. That's all I'm asking. Okay? Thank you so much. Okay, so Nosferatu. Hi, do you have anything to say? Oh, that was precious. This was another one of my highly anticipated films. I've been reading and like watching so many interviews and stuff about the costuming and like all the research that they put into it, and I just knew it was gonna eat. I'm also a huge Dracula fan. I love that book. I think it's just so cool, and I love that it can live on. That's like the sign of good writing, is it's not something that's like very time specific. It's a story that can be told from generation to generation and still be interesting. And I love that they stay a lot more true to the source material with this, and you really get that like haunting story that talks about female sexuality and like how that is demonized even to this day, specifically at the time. Like obviously it was like a really, really bad thing, but to this day, women's bodies are incredibly policed, and there is still that shame and fear that we have about expressing that side of ourselves. And I just think the story can appeal to so many different generations because of that. And they really just took a lot of care telling that story, and it just looked so good. So to start out, the lighting, they relied on like candles and low lighting. It just really took me back to that time period and just really built like the moodiness and the horror of like certain scenes. And something I did read, oh, we didn't even talk about the costume designer. Hello. So the costume designer for this film was Linda Muir. If I'm saying that wrong, I'm so sorry. You do not deserve me saying your name wrong, because you did a phenomenal job. I cannot praise the costumes in this film enough. But going back to lighting, something that she thought about when picking out costumes and textiles was how the lighting was going to affect it. Specifically with jewelry, she thought about how it would shine in the light. So there's certain scenes you can watch and see like the glisten because of the way they move the candle and the way that it is, and also just how the textiles would appear on film, like with the low lighting. And I think it translated really well. You can see all that hard work. So the film itself is set between Germany and Transylvania in the 19th century, and she was very attentive to the details of the silhouettes, and she even found a lot of like German textiles and vintage pieces, so things are like really accurate to the time period. There are some scenes that look directly out of fashion plates and sketches of the time. She just really nailed the silhouette, especially like the sleeves, how they're like thin but then they get big in a lot of dresses, and just like the shape of dresses as well. And even the under structures are super accurate. The corseting is the type of corseting that they would have done at the time. And oh my god, something I love was when Ellen was, you know, being possessed by a demon and was really sick and ill. The men are like, oh my god, you have to tighten the corset. She must sleep in it because her body is gonna fall apart. You have to keep her bones in place and fix her posture. What's gonna happen to the womb if she's not wearing her corset? Like, it's so crazy that men genuinely thought that. They had no idea how the female body worked at all. I also liked talking about more of like the medical side. They also talked about bloodletting and like releasing the blood, because at the time they still believed in the 4 humors. If there was an excess of one of the humors, in this case they believed it was excess blood, they would release that humor in order to heal the person. So that was like a really cool touch and made sense for the time period. But back to clothing, the thing I was most excited to see were the bonnets. Woo, 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 woo. Can we get an applause for the fucking bonnets? That is, I think most people that have studied fashion history in any capacity, that is the biggest pet peeve, is when historical films don't have bonnets. Because it doesn't make sense. Like, women were not leaving the house without a bonnet on. That was like a huge faux pas. That's not happening. That's why I love Emma, the one starring Anya Taylor-Joy and Mia Goth. That is just it's such a good film. I love the story. And they had bonnets, but not only bonnets, that film also went full send with the hair and actually did those fuck ass little ringlets. Oh, and I love them. I think it's gorgeous. I know maybe not to modern standards, but I love the little ringlet style. I think it's so fun. And that's something that this movie did as well, is they did historically accurate hair. I even saw the weird part where it's like 3 sections. I think it was the blonde friend that had that. And I was like, oh, I've seen that in a fashion plate. I have seen that in a fashion plate. And I was very excited about it. Geeking out a little bit. The style of bonnets they had were the poke bonnets. They're like the really like big ones that like poke out a lot and make it so you can see the hair underneath, and also flowers if you so chose to have flowers underneath, which they did in this movie, which makes total sense because they are wealthy individuals, so they would want to show their wealth the best that they could, and the flowers were a great way of doing that, because if you could afford to have fresh flowers in your bonnet every day, you obviously were rolling in the dough, and that made total sense. And that was something super fun about this period in fashion history, is that it was a super expressive time for women, and it was liberating. To our standards, obviously not. Like, the women were still restricted in these like corsets and these gowns, but it was the romantic period. Clothing was very self-expressive. You could choose fun ways to add fullness to the arms and the skirt, and then decorating your bonnets or adding flowers. Like, there was a lot of self-expression happening. And I think that that's why this setting works so well for this story, is yes, it is still a super oppressive time, and you have all these limitations on women's sexuality, but it was also a time of self-discovery for women and being able to find ways to express themselves, like Ellen does, because Ellen is a baddie. And we all know it. She also carries this through to Orlok, who has much more dated clothing and even looks just like worn and like disgusting. There's like maggots and shit. It just looks so gross, but really makes sense for the character. The mustache, though, the mustache is the only thing I'm questioning because I can only see the one bro from like Sonic. What's his name? Oh my God, this guy. Like, that's all I see because of the mustache. I love that. Like, that's cunty, but it's a lot. That is something I do love about this movie is they don't shy away from the nasty. Specifically, the sounds. Oh my God, the sounds are awful. It sounds so squishy and just the slurping of the blood. That was the scariest part for me. Everything else, that was fine, but the slurping of the blood was so bad. Also, Orlok's breathing. Goodness gracious, please. Let's talk about the performances a little bit because I think that this film did not have a weak link. Everybody was incredible, specifically Nicholas Hoult and Lily Rose Depp. Oh my goodness, I literally just wrote wow, 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 my loves. Because they just ate. And my favorite part of this whole story is the like love story, not between Orlok and Ellen. No, fuck no, absolutely not. I'm sorry, like that is not the main love in this movie. It is about Thomas and Ellen going through this extremely traumatic situation, but still like finding each other, matching each other's freak, if you will. Because if Thomas hadn't gone through what he went through with Orlok, he would never understand Ellen in the way he did. That one scene when they're in the room and she's like freaking out, having like her possession moment, and then tells him, "You'll never please me like he does." The old Thomas would have just been like, okay, you're like literally crazy, I'm gonna leave. But because of what he went through, he was able to match her energy, and like they found each other. They found love in a hopeless place, if you will. And I love that shit. And they both acted their little hearts out. Bill Skarsgård did not even recognize. Like, that was insane. He became Count Orlok, and that voice. Okay, listen, the voice is sexy. I have to admit it. I have to admit that the voice is sexy. And like Ellen, I get it. Because I don't think she like really sees him, you know, when she's younger and he's like reaching out. She's just hearing that voice and like, girl, I get it. Because damn, that's a sexy voice. Overall, this was just a fantastic movie. It was costumed so well. And it really just brought me back to the magic of reading Dracula for the first time. And I'm just so excited. I can't wait to see, because I feel like this movie is definitely going to be nominated for some awards because wow, the way it was so meticulously crafted and they just really thought about everything was amazing. And yeah, that is why it is in icon status. That's an easy pick. The only criticism I have is I feel like this movie is going to be very hard to watch, not in the theater, because it is so dark. Like the lighting, I feel like if I'm trying to watch this on my iPad, I'm going to have a rough time, but that's okay. I'll just have to go to the theater a million times before it's not in theaters anymore. And that is a sacrifice I'm willing to make.
I'm a fucking star! The whole world is gonna know my name! I will not accept a life I do not deserve!
If you couldn't tell, our next film is the iconic and very memeable The Substance. Now, this movie was absolutely incredible to me. Also, we're sitting on the floor for this one because I feel like the characters in the movie spend a lot of time on the floor, so it just makes sense. I was also going to film it in the bathroom, but it was way too echoey, so just pretend like I'm on my bathroom floor and it's like very, very accurate to the film, and pretend like my coat is yellow because this is not it. I actually realized this coat kind of looked like Demi Moore's coat because I dressed up as Cher for Halloween, but it was like really cold and I was also kind of sick. So I wore this coat with my costume. And then I thought about it. I was like, oh my God, I have long black hair and this coat. I look like Demi Moore. So I kept going up to people all night and I'd be like, do I look like Demi Moore? Because I was convinced I did. And then one of my friends took a photo of me.
who the fuck is that? That's not Demi Moore. Not even a little bit. This picture, I've never been more humbled in my whole fucking life. Really ruined my whole month, week, year, this whole year. Yeah, the whole year's fucking shot because of this photo. Anyways, if you couldn't tell, I loved this film. It was absolutely incredible. Not just the costume design, just overall, I thought it was such a great movie. The costume designer was Emmanuelle Youchnovski. I think I said that right. I hope I did, because they did an incredible job and deserve all of their flowers. They did such an incredible job making all of the costumes extremely eye-catching, yet they're also very achievable for the everyday person. They also had their work cut out for them because there is such limited dialogue in this movie that I feel like there's a lot more focus on the clothing, and they did a phenomenal job making the clothing eye-catching and making it interesting to look at during these scenes where there's absolutely no dialogue. Like, there's big portions of the movie where we're just following Elizabeth just going around doing stuff. The whole scenario where she's going to get the box, there's like no dialogue at all. Like, it's literally just her and her cunty coat out against the world, and it looks so fucking good. So let's talk about the characters' costumes. So Elizabeth, or Demi Moore's character, it starts out very demure, very mindful, very demure, very put together, like very buttoned up, if you will. Her shirt's all the way buttoned up with the bow. Like, she's very put together, right? And then as the movie goes on, you kind of watch as she like falls into chaos, like both physically in her life, but then also like through her clothing, like everything just starts to become very chaotic. But the one thing that stays is the cunty yellow coat. That is like the constant through line, and I am obsessed with it. Just the way that the coat devolves with her, I think, is so iconic and so fun. And I just love her running around in her almost monster form. It's not really the monster form yet, but like her running around with her little jacket. I love that shit. I think it was so fun. I also think that the yellow was super intentional, because not only can yellow represent caution or like a warning sign, it's also just super duper eye-catching. It can even activate the brain's concentration, or like just draw the brain in, which is a big reason why fast food places use yellow so much in like their logos and shit, to like draw people in. So I thought that was like really intentional, and it was just a great way to keep the viewer enthralled in these scenes where like not a whole lot is happening besides cunty coat walking around doing shit. Sue, on the other hand, comes out and she's like immediately fabulous. Margaret Qualley, the woman you are, seriously incredible. I love. But she comes out and she's like very fun, very flirty, like these cute little pink silhouettes, short skirts, very modern as well. She definitely leans more towards bright colors and sexy silhouettes. And there's even some reptile motifs that are present throughout. Like, she has some shirts with them on them. And then she even wears that like reptile jumpsuit situation. And I remember there's like the scene of her like zipping herself into it, which I really loved. I thought that was super cool. And I saw some people talk about that could be representing like shedding skin, but for me, I see it as her shedding the weight of Elizabeth, because that's the first time that she like abuses the substance. She abuses the balance, right? And that's her slowly starting to shed away this. It's like dead weight, right? Like, because when it's Sue time, we're having a great time. Sue time is party time. Drugs, bitches, money, as Doji said.
I like doing Hollywood shit, snorted Bollywood.
Sue is out on the town living her best life. And so she feels like Elizabeth is wasting her time. So this is like the first instance where she's like, well, I might just take a little bit more, because this bitch doesn't need it, right? I also really like the work outfits. I like the juxtaposition between the two. Elizabeth is very classy, very demure, high neck, not a whole lot going on. And then Sue's is like bright pink, metallic, super sexy, like high cut, got like little cutouts everywhere. Both are really cute. Like, I love both, but it's cool to see like the juxtaposition between those two. Overall, the movie was just absolutely incredible. It looked stunning. And it was just such an engaging story about ageism, unattainable beauty standards, and how the quest for perfection always leads to destruction. You can never achieve it because perfection isn't real. It's made up by some freaking man eating shrimp like a maniac. That was seriously the scariest part of the movie, though. Dennis Quaid eating shrimp was the worst thing in this movie for sure. And this is a body horror, so that's saying a lot. Like, there was some nasty scenes, but him eating that shrimp made me want to shrivel up and die. So just think about that next time that you're like, I want to be more perfect. No, that's the man. That's the man that's trying to create these standards. Don't fucking listen to that. Absolutely not. Okay, yes, if you couldn't tell by the very on the nose prop, we are talking about challengers. I really wanted to have a churro for this. If you know, you know. That scene changed my life. I think that the impacts that it had on the world could be studied. That scene was insane. You're gonna you grab his chair with your foot, and then taking the bite out of it. I can't even talk about this properly. I have not recovered from that scene still to this day. But yeah, I was gonna get a churro, but the place closed earlier than I thought, so no churro for me. This movie absolutely deserves to be an icon status purely for the effect that it had on culture at the time. It was absolutely in the zeitgeist in so many ways. It really came at like a perfect time, especially like with the rise of pickleball and then also the trend of quiet luxury. This film perfectly embodied those things, and I think that's why it made it such a moment. It also had just so many different things Gen Z specifically was looking for in a movie. The score was also incredible and came at a perfect time as well with the rise of hyperpop, and it really had that like hyperpop EDM, like it really was just perfect for the summertime. And of course you have Zendaya, like come on now. You also had this little like love triangle situation which people were absolutely obsessed with. It also just looked incredible, like the lighting and the way that they filmed certain scenes. Like it was just really an engaging story, perfect for the generation that has zero attention span. Like they really found a way to make tennis interesting, which is amazing because I feel like most people, specifically Gen Z, just don't have the attention span for tennis. So it was really cool how they were able to film it in a way that just made it so engaging. Oh my gosh. This film is also iconic because it's styled by Jonathan Anderson of Loewe and J.W. Anderson. Are you fucking kidding me? That's incredible. I was so excited when I found out that he was the one that was going to be costuming this movie because I knew that he was going to absolutely kill it, because that's something that he does so well, is elevating like very basic look. Even just the like stupid little t-shirt, the I Told You t-shirt in this movie is iconic because of the historical context and also what it means in the plot. So historically, it comes from a shirt that JFK Jr. wore in the 90s. And JFK Jr. fine. And he was really known for his like super like laid back, but also still rich and elevated style. Very much that like quiet luxury, chill vibe, you know? And so he wore this shirt that said I told you, which is supposedly based off of JFK's buttons from the 60s that said I told you so. But, you know, like more modern and hip because it's just, I told ya. And in the movie context, this was really cool because the characters that wore this shirt and kind of passed it back and forth both have this idea that they're in the right. That is like their whole thing. They have trouble seeing the other side of things because they are so confident in what they believe. And so the shirt was just absolutely perfect for that. Oh, I wrote down, love that the shirt volleys between the characters, because it does. And it's so cute. I love that. I also just wrote down Road to El Dorado. Wink, wink. Yeah. I saw someone did, I'll put it here. Someone did an edit where it's like Road to El Dorado, but like the Challengers logo. Honestly, true. Just a bunch of hotties going on a little adventure. Will they, won't they? We love having an actual love triangle where, you know, you can make the connections, because I hate when it's just two people going after one person. That's not a triangle, baby. We need that final connection. The two going after also need to be attracted to one another, or the triangle is fake. Fake. Twilight? Come on. Why don't Jacob and Edward kiss? Why don't Jacob and Edward share a churro? What are we doing? That is not a triangle. I don't even know what to call it. Just two arrows pointing at another arrow. Complete the angle. And I think a lot of other people felt the same way, and that's why Challengers was so successful. We finally got our dreams of having a real love triangle. Back to the clothes. We're talking about the clothes. We're not talking about the churro scene anymore. They also did a really good job utilizing other brands as well, because a big thing with sports players is that they receive a lot of sponsorships from brands. So they're kind of like required to wear certain brands or go to certain brand events. Like I remember the beginning of the movie, they're going to an Adidas party and Tashi is like wearing Adidas and was like in the campaigns and stuff. And then later on, Art is like sponsored by Uniqlo. So that's like all he's wearing is uniforms are like all Uniqlo. And throughout, there's like a lot of different brands, which usually I would hate for a movie. I'm like, okay, yeah, the ad placements are annoying. At the Mean Girls movie, actually, we're going to take a side note and rant about that. You're going to tell me that Regina George, is going to be using e.l.f.? No. Absolutely not. There's no way in this world. That's the most unbelievable thing about the entire movie is the fact that they have Regina George using an e.l.f. product. Is it a great product? Yes. But Regina George is not using it. That was insane. I was so mad. I wanted to walk out of the theater right then and there. My girl is not using anything less than Tarte. She's not going to that side of Ulta. She doesn't know that side of Ulta exists. She is on the right side. She's with the shiny, expensive product. She's not going anywhere near the other side. So I usually hate like a brand placement because it's just kind of annoying. But in this movie, it totally made sense because of the context of them being sports players and how sponsorships and that kind of thing are a big part of how they like make income as sports players, because being in sports honestly doesn't pay that well unless you're at like an extremely high level, which art eventually gets to, but like throughout it just made sense being in the sport world. Yeah, I just think that Jonathan Anderson did a fantastic job styling this movie and really making it become part of the zeitgeist, just making all of these like simple but really iconic looks, especially the I Told You shirt. That was genius and I saw them everywhere. So that's absolutely incredible. And also tennis fashion. Tennis fashion really came into the zeitgeist as well. Like I really saw it popping off. As a costume designer, that is like the dream, right? You costume a movie and it becomes like this iconic thing. And the movie itself is just great and I love it. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you had fun. I know I did. This is the best way to spend my birthday. Appreciate you for spending it with me. I feel like this is good. I feel like I did a good job ranking the movies. There's definitely more great movies, some honorable mentions that were amazing. I saw the TV Glow. That movie was fucking incredible. It looked so good. Honestly, the costumes in that were really good as well. It just wasn't, I feel like, as exciting in the costume department as some of these other ones, so it didn't make the list. But if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It is just an absolutely incredible movie. Definitely one of my favorites of the year as well. Immaculate had some really cool costumes as well. I feel like the movie itself was a little slow, but the costumes were really incredible. Anora had some really cool costumes, and I like a little romance, but not really a romance. Anora was super fun. Alien Romulus almost made this list as well. It was really good. I was really excited to get a good Alien movie because it's been a little bit. And the final honorable mention goes to Abigail. That movie was weird as hell, but I loved it. Little ballerina vampire, are you fucking kidding me? Also, Catherine Newton, being the scream queen that she is, having a great time. I do have a couple worst movies I saw too, just for funsies. Okay. Mean Girls, the costumes, not good, very disappointing. Renee Rapp, incredible. As we've already established, I love musicals, and I was just disappointed. Uglies. I watched that. I know. I just love dystopian, and I really thought I would give it a chance. It wasn't good. And they're not even lesbians, so like, what the fuck was the point? You're gonna make these two lesbians not be lesbians? I didn't understand that. That was crazy. I guess there's a love triangle with the dudes. I don't know. I know nothing about this series, and I don't want to know. The costumes weren't good either. Dear Santa. I watched this on Christmas with my family, and it sounded good. I love the idea of a kid accidentally writing to Satan because dyslexia. I think that's funny as someone that can't write for shit. I loved that concept, but the acting was so bad. Oh my God, it was some of the worst acting I've ever seen. Even Jack Black wasn't great in this, and Jack Black's usually pretty funny, but it was just, it was a lot. I couldn't deal with it. And yeah, Glenda the Good decreed these the top 10 films of 2024 based kind of mostly almost on costumes, but not really. Maybe a little bit more of my personal opinion. But thank you so much for joining me. Yeah, I think it was a great year for movies. I'm so excited for 2025. There's already movies I'm excited for, and I think it's gonna fucking rock.